Good evening, fellow Americans, citizens of Kootenai County, our friends to the south in the Boise area, east into Montana, and west into that once conservative bastion, Eastern Washington. Thank you for joining me. I am your Kootenai County Sheriff candidate for 2024, Dan Wilson, also known as the Idaho Sheriff. Glad you joined us tonight for our weekly question and answering. I believe that this is episode number 6. We've done 7, but the first one was more of a rebuttal to, show your proof.
We're just going to keep plugging away. We do a live stream multicast every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. So you know what to expect, when to expect it, and we'll be here.
And of course, this is my producer, co-host, best friend, lovely, beautiful, talented wife, Donna. So thanks for joining me.
No matter which platform you're joining on, you can go right into the comment section and put in your question or comment. Sometimes it's a form of a comment that you'd like Dan to respond to. We're okay with that too. But just put your question right there in the comment section, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or with us on Instagram. Also, a very important point is whichever platform you're on, hit the share button. It looks a little bit different on each. So you've got the share on Facebook. Please do that, because then more of your friends can join us live tonight and join in on the Q&A, which is always really fun. And then on Instagram, that share button looks a little bit like a paper airplane taking off. So hit that, share it with your friends, and then more of us will come together for the conversation. It's going to be fun.
Now, last week, we had a little bit of a glitch. I'm still not certain exactly what the issue is, but for whatever reason, Instagram would not allow us to post our live event from last Wednesday. But the good news is you can still find it on our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and look up The Idaho Sheriff, you will find it. We did not hide it. We did not delete it. It is there. And hopefully this week, there won't be any glitches.
Also, just some housekeeping. I am multitasking. So last week on the broadcast, I kept the title slide up there for a good, I don't know how long, painfully too long. This week I did it a little bit, but it wasn't as long. It's gone now. So for those of you who say your faces,
we need another individual in here helping us.
We need a third person. Yeah. Look for the volunteer.
Well, we're looking forward to talking tonight about all sorts of things. We want to hear your questions. It can be hard questions, easy questions, comments. The one caveat is if at any time any comment is disparaging to Donna, you're going to be immediately eliminated and you will not be allowed to come back. You can say whatever you want to me, bring it on, but that's a no-go zone. So now, lately, we have been hearing rumors that Bob Norris, my competitor, who is the sitting sheriff from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, where he spent 30 years of his career dutifully serving as a full-time cop, he is upset that there's a group of us that are spreading, what did he call it? Fake news. Now, fake news is apparently anytime somebody questions anything that him or Special Deputy County Commissioner Bruce Matari, the de facto leader of the Kootenai County Central Committee, anyway, he calls that fake news.
No, did you want me to show the?
I would love for you to show the viewers what the good sheriff has to say.
This is what he had to say on his re-elect Norris for Sheriff Facebook page. And just warning all of you of those who are spreading disinformation and fake news. So I don't know what the line is. Where is the line where you can question what those in authority are doing and saying, look, things don't add up on this one to me? Or I don't know why I don't know what the
Look, our government was always set up to be of the people, for the people, by the people. I probably got that a little bit out of order, but you get the gist. And here it is. The consent of the people allows individuals such as Bob Norris and Bruce Matari to represent us, the people, and they must be transparent. We demand transparency out of all government. Now, maybe there isn't transparent government at a federal level, maybe there isn't at a state level, but in Kootenai County, there's no reason we should not have the most transparent government. If the conservatives here really believe what they say, there should be no issue. And it's very simple. Now, Bob got very upset when I was about his special deputy relationship with Bruce Matari, who is a politician who carries a special deputization from Bob Norris. they both got very upset because I believe that Bruce Matari has access to privileged information that the rest of us don't. He got upset about that. Bruce got upset. They thought that I was making criminal allegations. If the shoe fits, I mean, hello, fellows. The other thing was talking about Bob's disability that he gets from Los Angeles County. And it's a sizable, I think, what, $180,000 a year he makes in disability income from the state of California. That's all fine and dandy, but we really wanted to know what his disability is and if it potentially affects the citizens that he is protecting in Kootenai County, especially with all his emotional outbursts. So anyway, that triggered him to, come up with this quasi event. And at the Show Your Proof event that he held, and I did not attend, I thought it was really funny that he presented all sorts of our documentation, my website, my video clips, and he didn't actually produce any documents himself. So if you want, you can go back, I think on Rumble, Coeur d'Alene Freedom Watch, I believe is the channel. You can look at the Show Your Proof circus that County Commissioner Special Deputy Bruce Matari was a part of, and former prosecuting attorney Bryant Bushling. Go back, see for yourselves. But yeah, there definitely wasn't any proof that Bob ever showed to dispel anything other than state statutes.
Yeah. Do you think the 150 or so people who were there noticed that he never provided? He shoved some papers over to the attorney that he
do you see this right here?
Yeah.
Do you read that? What is that name? Is that name something you recognize?
Do you think anybody in attendance realized, well, I never saw that, none of that was displayed?
It didn't matter.
What did I even see?
It didn't matter.
Well, why are we still talking about that?
Well, because it ties into this false allegations that apparently I, the ringleader, as well as Mike Bauer, who is an honorable man, captain of major crimes in Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department before the corrupt Baca Tanaka days. There's also a guy by the name of John Grimm who ran against Bob Norris in the primaries in 2020. Somehow Bob is trying to say that Grimm and I, who I've only met recently, are colluding. And then, of course, he likes to bag on the original GOAT, the BC preacher, who is a man of truth and liberty without compromise.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
he's upset right now, though, that we're talking about his little helicopter program.
Yeah, so Norris had a follow-up on that Facebook post there on his Reelect Norris page where he said it's already happening. Oh, no, see, now that was the wrong thing I brought up there. But he was saying it was already happening. Oh, I know where it is. It's on this next slide. And that had to do, I believe, with the helicopter program, and he was tying you together with John Graham.
Yeah.
You're conspiring. What do you have to say to that, if anything?
Well, look, Bob, the facts are your upper program is not needed, and it's a mess. You can keep saying it isn't all day long. I mean, we can talk about the way you set up the relationship between the Kootenai County Regional Air Support and the conflicts of interest that are a part of that, your timeline. And then we can also talk about how it relates to the tribe. But we've talked about this a lot. I don't think we need to beat it up right now. Maybe somebody will ask some more questions about it. We can dive into greater detail. But I'd like to talk more about ideas of liberty. I know that people think that the clips they see are always just about negative things towards the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. And while those things are bad, and I have very many questions about what Bob and Bruce and his other sycophants are doing, many people don't get to see the side of me that I show when I'm at a live event, where I get to actually talk to the people who I care deeply about, the people that I want to represent and I want to protect as the chief law enforcement officer of the county. And I had a privilege this last weekend to actually do just that. Now, many of you already know that I switched right before I had to file with the county elections. I switched from being a lifetime Republican to an independent for this cycle. And as a result, when you're an independent, all of a sudden you're kind of thrown to the curb at times because, you're just one of those crazy independent dudes. But North Idaho Freedom Fighters graciously extended me an invitation for their town hall that they had this past Sunday at the Best Western Coeur d'Alene Inn. They had county commissioner candidates. They had, I guess it would have been state representatives, and they had sheriff candidates. Now, out of the 4 sheriff candidates running, yours truly was the one that showed up. And so I did have an opportunity to talk with the people, and I left them with this charge.
We're queuing that up. Give me just a second.
Everyone in here, I believe, agrees with me that we are facing difficult times, not only right here in the state, but also nationwide. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
We're not stupid. We see what they're attempting to do. The United States government is aiding and abetting the invasion in our country. The globalists are in full swing with the neo-Marxists attempting to take away the very liberty that our fathers promised us. And we have very difficult times ahead if we are not united as a community. And when I am in office, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to form a citizens posse where we unite everybody together to prepare this county for any man-made and or natural event. But here's the thing, I want you all to remain hopeful, because we did not descend from fearful men. We descended from men who understood the times, and they acted accordingly, and they pledged their lives and their fortunes and their sacred honor. And it is now up to us to carry that same mission, to save this republic right here in Kootenai County, where we can show the rest of the world what a secure, God-fearing, red county looks like. We will be that shining city on a hill for the rest of the country to see what a community joined together in the cause of liberty without compromise. And I want you to join me, please, shoulder to shoulder. God bless you all. Stay of good courage, and may God bless Kootenai County.
Thank you.
That was a lot of fun. And again, I want to extend a heartfelt thanks and appreciation to the folks that run the North Idaho Freedom Fighters, Amy, Brooke, I'm forgetting a couple others. I apologize, but thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Now, that was a great event. We had a lot of questions. There was, I think, a total of 9 questions that were asked. And it was curious to me, the questions that were actually asked versus the ones that weren't. Now, we were given, my understanding was 30 minutes time for each of these specific offices. So the legislators got 30 minutes, and it was my understanding the sheriffs were going to get 30 minutes as well. But since there was only one candidate for sheriff that showed up, they cut my time pretty short to 10 minutes. That was not NIF. I think that was our moderator. So, but I was actually surprised at the kinds of questions that were asked by the moderator versus the questions that didn't get asked. Now, I did a little, I guess, checking down memory lane, and the moderator, and I'm going to screw his name up, Ed Bejarana, I think that's how it's pronounced. I know I majorly butchered it, but I remembered him from the Bob Norris re-election kickoff, I guess it was, event that he had. And he had this to say about Bob Norris.
I've seen him work professionally. This is a man who puts community first. He's just a dynamite individual, yet he's open to creative ideas. He's brought some energy to our community and our county that I don't think any other county gets to experience.
Does that mean he's earned your vote?
He absolutely has earned my vote. Just wrote him a check, too, so yeah.
So that was the moderator for the event, and he had full control of the 9 questions that were asked. I went up and was able to confiscate the questions right after the event. But it was interesting. I was told from the beginning, and I believe I was the only candidate that Ed came up and told this to. Donna was with me. He introduced himself, and then he proceeded to say, hey, we want this to be about you and your ideas. You don't need to talk about your opponent, what he has or hasn't done. We want this all to be about you. And then he proceeds, when I get up there, to ask me questions about, well, this is what your competitor is doing. What are you going to do different? And I just thought that was, highly funny. And so right out of the gates, we were getting questions like, what was it? Things about, well, what are you going to do different to secure my liberties without compromise that the other, candidate, the current sheriff, has not done? But here's the questions that I didn't get asked. One of them was this, and these were all great questions that really should have been asked. What is a citizens posse? Are you going to put badges and guns on inexperienced people? Please explain. That is an excellent question. And I want to dive into that a second because I didn't get a chance to answer that. We are not going to put badges and guns on the vast majority of people that join up the posse. My posse is going to be made up of vetted volunteers from all different walks of life, expertise, and backgrounds in order to secure the county in the event of any man-made or natural disaster that takes place. So will there be times where we might have to call up individuals to swear them in and put a badge on them? Yes, that definitely could happen, but that's not the primary default posse that we're going to have. Now, Idaho state law actually commands the sheriff under Title 31-2202, command the aid of as many inhabitants of the county as he may think necessary in the execution of his duties to secure the county. So that was a great question. Next question. Why should the citizens of Kootenai County vote for you? Will you respect every citizen, including conservative and God-loving people, no matter what you believe? Another great question. So why should the citizens of Kootenai County vote for me? I believe that the reasons citizens should vote for me is because I bring an experience and background and love for the rule of law, the Bill of Rights for the people of this county that no other candidate currently is showing. I mean, Bauer does, and so I don't mean to demean him, but the fact of the matter is that I have 12 years of experience being a line cop. I know exactly what it's like at the ground level, what the basics of law enforcement is, but I also have a vast background of being in business for 25 years, being in charge of hundreds of employees, hiring, firing, negotiating contracts, budgets, vast background when it comes to all things money related that don't start with the taxpayer. But above and beyond all that, I love the Constitution immensely, and I so believe in what the founders brokered for us, what they were able to write and to, in all of their brilliancy as young men, just because they're wearing wigs didn't mean they're old. I believe that there is no other candidate out here right now that understands all that and has a vision for securing the county against the next scam-demic that they are going to thwart upon us. So, and yes, I will protect every citizen's rights in this county, regardless if you are far left-wing. If you believe completely opposite of my worldview, I will protect everybody's rights as found in the Bill of Rights, because that is the way the founders made the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, to put those binds on government to keep government from violating the rights that God gives every person to life, liberty, and property. So I believe that's a great reason as to why people should vote for me.
A question from Carla on Instagram. Thanks for joining us. And
Hello, Carla.
just let me remind you to put your question for Dan right into the comment section, no matter where you're viewing right now. Put it in the comment section there. We'll get it and I will pass it on to Dan. So Carla asks, what is your reasoning behind your decision to switch to independent from Republican?
Yeah, Carla, great question. Thank you for asking that. I've covered this multiple times. And so for those of you who are new, it comes down to this. When I entered into the race back in October, when I filed with the Secretary of State, I thought that I was going to be running with my ideas and what my values were to share to the people. But it became apparent very early on that a certain subset of the KCRCC was going to see to it that Dan Wilson candidate, Republican candidate, would not have any kind of a fair shake getting the nomination of or the endorsement, I guess, or suggestion, whatever they're calling it, for the KCRCC. I went ahead and I filled out their survey and turned it in, but really what was going on was a whole bunch of things. You can actually go to the podcast, the Idaho Sheriff Podcast. You can find it everywhere you stream podcasts, or go to our website, theidahosheriff.com, where I talk about it in more detail, episodes 2 and 3. But it came down to, at the end, there were certain vetting committee members who were openly hostile towards me and openly supporting my opponent. And I realized right then and there that there was no way that, because the KCRC has started this idea that they have to do any endorsements, which they really should not. They should not be endorsing.
They are recommendations.
Well, call it what you want, but it's their stamp. They spend tens of thousands of dollars, as I understand it, on these suggestion mailers, because people either do not know how to look up the issues and the candidates and see for themselves, or they're too lazy. So that's really the reason why. But I've been a lifelong Republican. I served as a young Republican board member. I canvassed for Republican candidates before I was old enough to vote. And I'm sad that I, for this time, had to run as an independent, but it's the only way that I can have a truly fair attempt to run and give Bob Norris a run for his money, to continue exposing his incompetency, as well as those other things that he is doing that are highly suspect, that the people deserve a right to know. But the KCRCC, many of them believe that Bob should be a king. They don't want anybody challenging their candidates. And it's going very badly for them, I might say. They had a very, very bad record last November with their candidates getting squashed. And going into this election cycle, you have a split from Bruce Matari, who sent out his letter to many of the KCRCC members, the voting members, and gave his recommendations, and they rejected Matari's. And so that's a little civil war going on. And they decided not to install those special hand-picked county commissioners that Bob and Bruce want so badly. In fact, they're continually campaigning with these guys. Brett Surplus, dirtbag. I don't care what you say, Brett Surplus is a dirtbag, and more of that information is going to come out. Dale Givney might be a nice guy, but look, he came out extremely hostile towards the Republican Party a couple of years ago in the Coeur d'Alene Press, where, you know, he made statements that he would never, ever vote or, you know, be a part of the Republican Party again. And I get it, Dale. I'm not saying I'll never be a part of the Republican Party. I'm just saying for this cycle, I'm running as an independent. So
Dale Givney is running an ad, a meta ad right now that says one of his goals, or one thing he's touting, is that he will work closely with the sheriff to like further the cause of what it comes across to me is the causes that the sheriff deems necessary for the department. He will be yet another commissioner to bind together and push those goals forward.
Well, look, I think that's great on paper, but let's remember that all elected officials need to work together, but they also need to stay in their own lane. Let the sheriff take care of law and order and make recommendations to the county commissioners. I think that Leslie Duncan has been doing a really phenomenal job. Again, full disclosure, I've met Leslie 2 times, despite the rumors. No, she did not put me up to this. Number 2, no, we are not plotting a development plot together, because, you know, people, of course, I'm a commercial general contractor, and the assumption is that I'm a developer and build things from the ground up. We're remodel specialists for medical. So yeah, anyway, that, Carla, is the reason why I still hold very close to the same values as what is on the Republican platform. But ultimately, this time around, I think that people in general are getting very, very tired of the uniparties. And I think the sheriff should probably be pretty independent right now. And Dan Wilson is not going to be beholden to any party or any office. He's going to represent the office as the lonely position that the sheriff is, because of the sacredity of that job. And as the chief law enforcement entity of the county, look, I will stand on my own, and I'm not afraid to do that.
We've got a couple other questions, so I'm going to ask you this one, make the answer quick. Has a sheriff been elected who has run as an independent here in Kootenai County? Has that ever happened? And do you think, because you're running as an independent, do you have a chance? And can you hand me a pen while you're thinking about your...
The answer is, to the best of my knowledge, there has never been an independent sheriff that has won And that's why I'm really excited to be the very first independent in Kootenai County to win this election, because I believe that there are Republicans that are seeing the light, and they are looking for not party affiliation, but they're looking for values and the ideas of a man who is sold out to liberty without compromise, unlike a candidate who is a sitting sheriff who really hasn't done anything for the community at large other than go to parades and coffee with a cop and do things for his office. But he hasn't done anything to get this community ready for the next time that there's an end run around the Constitution. And this guy right here does not believe in bullying anybody. And Bob Norris has a reputation. I hear it every single week. The people that are afraid to have Bob or Special Deputy Bruce Matari, who, he does have access to privileged information as a politician, they're afraid of those guys. And I think Democrats also can rest assured, since I don't think they're even running a candidate right now. I know you told me to hurry up and answer this question, so I guess I'll end it. But Democrats, look, I won't agree with you from my worldview, but I will make certain that your rights are protected every bit as much as anybody that aligns with my worldviews.
Do have a couple more questions on Instagram. I'm going to come back to those. We've got somebody joining us on Facebook named Ryan, and he would like to know, what would your relationship be between KCSO and the FBI?
The FBI relationship is going to be extremely formal, meaning that I will be laying out the rules for operating in this county. And they will be put on notice that at the moment that they violate that, or any three-letter agency, any federal agency, even the, the Department of Education, who has a SWAT team, they're going to be all put on a very, very short leash, and there will be consequences if they violate any of our people's constitutional rights. So I'm not going to put much stock in them. In fact, I think they're a despicable organization right now. Maybe at one time they were more honorable. I know as a kid, I thought the FBI was great, but we have seen the persecution of political adversaries for the past 6 years at least, and they are not to be trusted. So if they got disbanded tomorrow, I would probably take the day off from work and drink a bunch of scotch and smoke some good cigars. So
regarding the Brett Surplus comment, this might be more for, he's running for county commissioner.
Yes. Yep.
Which seat is it? Do you remember?
I think it's District 1.
So the question just is, do you have any other specific examples? Because I think that caused concern.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that are coming out that I just actually witnessed this weekend by a source that will be dropping something very shortly. But the personal stuff that will be coming out, the entanglements that he's in, let's also talk about his kneeling with Black Lives Matter. He can say whatever he wants to, but there is a great video out there in 2020 where he's in his paintball tactical vest and his rifle slung downtown Coeur d'Alene next to the BLM folks, and then he takes a knee. And I'm sorry, if you take a knee with the BLM, with those thugs, with those Marxists, then you know what? You have zero respect for me. I had zero respect for Brett Surplus, and more facts will be coming out. I know they're going to say that's all Wilson does is throw out these idle threats, but trust me, it's coming.
Well, what we learned is you start out to run on your own ideas, and when you were met with vitriol out of the gate, then you dig deeper into what's really going on with this party, what's going on with all of these elected positions that are interconnected. And the more you learn, you suddenly have a responsibility of, well, I cannot turn a blind eye. And it's impossible to unveil or reveal or shed light on evil if you don't talk about it.
Well, and here's my belief again. Brett Surplus came up to me after I spoke at a public forum one time, and he told me, I don't need to run. Nobody knows you. You need to basically eat some humble pie. Everybody knows who I am, Brett Surplus, but you're really a nobody. You don't know anything about this community. On and on and on it went, disparaging my law enforcement service because, of course, in his capacity, where he didn't last long as a Shoshone County deputy, and then he lasted even less amount of time, even shorter time with the Kellogg Police Department. And people should look into what that real story is if they want to know. The fact of that matter is that, you know, Brett is full of himself, and really, I can't say anything good about Brett other than he's an American.
What will you do to gain the trust of deputies if you're elected?
Well, I think that starts by the very first conversation that we have, where I'm going to lay out what my philosophy is, what my expectations are, and my visions, as well as the individual that I'm having come on as undersheriff. I think this individual is so well respected that will bring a certain amount of confidence. But look, we're going to be talking about extreme ownership in this department. We're going to be talking about a calling versus a career, and nobody is going to have any deputy gangs going on. We're not going to have any favoritism, cronyism. The crap that has been going on since 2021 is ridiculous. And the sheriff's office should be cohesive. People should be promoted based on their merit and their hard work, and they should be rewarded for doing the right thing. But for those individuals that are not doing the right thing, when I find out about those wrong things, then they're going to be dealt with accordingly. I hope that answers that question.
I think it does. Can you talked about the posse a little bit ago. Can you give us an example of how posse might be used in a disaster? There, Wilkerson username. We regularly have flooding and recently have had some wildfires very close to us last year. So this is something that's heavy on their mind.
Yeah, hypotheticals, because we don't have it written out at the moment, but for an example, thanks Wilkerson, nice name by the way. The posse in a practical aspect would look like this. We divide the county up into districts and boundary lines. And so I live up near Spirit Lake in Athol, and we would have individuals that are assigned as the leaders of these districts. And they're the ones that the sheriff's office or any emergency first responder commanders would give the order out to these individuals. For an example, last year we had some pretty good fires right down the road. And rather than having deputies having to run house to house to house, especially in the rural areas, we need to have those designated individuals that already know their neighbors, are in communication with the sheriff's office or the command centers, and actually rolls the citizens out to take that burden off of deputies who can be responding to more important things. And so the fact that these individuals inside their communities know their neighbors, that's an added benefit because they know how to get a hold of people better rather than going up to a door and knocking on it or trying to locate somebody on their property. So I think that is a real good practical way. There's many other scenarios that we can go down, but that would be a quick practical application.
I think another good assignment for all community members, a challenge for all of us, is to reach out and get to know your neighbors. Those of us who live on property where you go up a driveway, you're not used to having strangers or trespassers coming up to your door. So if you've got the people on your block or your closest neighbors that have a plan for being able to approach your property or how to contact or connect with you, instead of that being foreign because you've never connected with them at all and you're waiting till really a point that's too late if you're not doing it now.
So what I observed last year was the fire was approximately 3 miles to the east with the winds blowing away from us. So the likelihood of the winds whipping back and driving that fire 3 miles west towards my location, I felt was pretty small. But what I observed was a lot of panic. The roads were getting clogged up by people, especially with horses and livestock that were getting their goosenecks and their horse haulers, getting them all geared up and ready. And what happened was they gummed it up for the rest of the people that were trying to actually evacuate from those areas that were truly affected. So there's a lot of coordination that needs to be done, but it's not as simple as always having the sheriff's office who's doing multiple other things and trying to secure perimeters for.
Well, they couldn't. I mean, we observed that in that moment when you have this crisis going on in this very concentrated area, the attitude very much was every man for themselves.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, it only took that long.
Yeah.
And that really a small fire that was contained relatively quickly, and people aren't getting the message. And as much as we want to say we're being good neighbors and we know how to have a plan, that was not what
Well, and emergency communications as well. So, you know, the reality is that people in general do panic when they're not used to something bad that happens. And so part of our training is going to be on how we eliminate some of the fear and how we reassure people that are inside our sector with our posse members. So
Now you've just had some exciting stuff going down this last week.
Yeah.
One of those things was on a Facebook post that was shared into a group on Facebook. There was a comment that was inserted into this post, a comment that did not relate to the post at all.
okay.
And the comment was, does Dan Wilson want to explain these things he was saying in this podcast regarding a local megachurch?
Mhm.
And they harkened back to a podcast that was originally published in 23.
Okay.
That
So
you
here we
and
go.
I had co-hosted.
Mhm.
So there was somebody who was doing some deep digging and really digesting.
Which, by the way, you and I actually talked about this, and I'm excited because we knew eventually that those podcasts would come in handy for people who really wanted to know who Dan Wilson is. You know, people say, I just showed up out of nowhere, I was a plant, but this really gives people an idea of who Dan Wilson truly is before he was a politician. So, yeah, I'm not ashamed of that.
Well, so I see the comment and I give it over to you, and I said, okay, they found episode 19 of the Unspoken Podcast.
Was it episode
And
19?
It was episode
Okay.
19. And you were recounting an experience that you had sitting in a local Starbucks.
On the western side in Washington State, not Kootenai County.
And as you were painting that picture, I mean, it was a colorful picture of a group of guys that were sitting around having a conversation that was intentionally loud enough for everybody to hear over the roar of the machines and the other people talking. So you couldn't help.
Yeah, they were talking really loud.
You were immersed into their conversation, whether you wanted to be or not.
Yeah.
So do you remember, I mean, minus the colorful descriptions, because we have a video clip here that I want to play.
Roll that beautiful reel.
Well, does it need more setting up? Because
Well, I think where you're getting with this is we were talking earlier about speaking at NIF, the North Idaho Freedom Fighters Town Hall, and I was going over some of the questions that I was not asked. One of the questions out of the 9, there was 2 of them that were almost verbatim. And this, I think, this disgruntled person, this lady, brought this up 24 hours earlier on one of the private chats.
really, it wasn't even 20. The interesting thing was it was within a course of 12 hours of this being brought up
Yeah.
on the chat that here you are in a live town hall, and oddly enough, on handwritten comment cards, this became one of
Yeah.
the questions.
The question for sheriff. Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and
So
play
that-
it?
Yeah, I think that brings a little more explanation to it. Make sure this is the right one.
And clarify your derogatory comments regarding the local megachurch, using terms like soy boys with tight leg pants, using Saul Alinsky tactics, protesting the church. Will you retract your statements and apologize to other Christ followers?
Wow, that's a good question for sheriff. Pardon me?
There was a word you missed. You used the word prostitute.
Okay. So what the question is referring to is I have a podcast that I've had for several years called the Unspoken Podcast, and we talk about all things. There's nothing that is the sacred cow that we don't discuss. This particular episode was concerning a conversation that I heard when I was in a Starbucks over on the other side of the border. And it was a church gathering of leaders that were talking about how to manipulate the congregations in order to give more to build a new building. And so what I was referring to, and I'd love for you guys to actually go to, we'll put it on the idahosheriff.com website so you can hear specifically yourself what I said. And I do not apologize for talking about those people that want to make the church a corporation.
Amen. Yeah.
Jesus Christ is not a marketing tool. And if anybody's okay with churches being in a business model and manipulation of the people that they are supposed to minister to, then I do not apologize.
Thank you.
And the fact of the matter is that I do not apologize. As we were saying earlier, the question came up, or the comment, less than 24 hours before this. So it was obviously a coordinated Q&A question that several people brought up in an attempt to somehow, you're going to shame me for saying the truth, which is, I don't care if you're a church of 5 or if you're a church of 15,000, they assume they know what church I'm talking about. I never said what church it was, but it doesn't matter. If the church is actively looking to manipulate the people it serves and to market Jesus, then no, I'm not ashamed. They need to be called out. Because it's a false church.
Yeah, the comment originally came up, I remember now, it originally came up in a conservative women's chat group on Facebook. And so it's a lot of it's ladies only. And the thing that I thought was so interesting is that one of the gals who commented on it, she put in that up here, but she basically said, as she started engaging in this tell-all about what you said in this podcast about that local church, is that you really stepped in it.
Mm-hmm.
And her husband is a well-known broadcaster.
Well, let's call it out. I mean, if she's going to post it in a group for the world to see, his name's Todd Herman, and he used to fill in for Rush Limbaugh. So apparently, since Todd Herman goes to the church she thinks that I was talking about, then somehow I really stepped in it. And Todd, if you're happen to watch this, I would absolutely love to come and talk with you, either in person or better yet on your radio show, to talk about the church and the state it's in right now and why the country is going down the anyway. So these are all fun. Now, Ed, the individual that was the moderator, again, an acknowledged, self-acknowledged fan and contributor to Bob Norris. I won't say that he purposely threw the questions, but I don't think he did a very good job in asking all the questions versus the ones that he did let out. The last question that I was not asked, and I thought it was a great question. And by the way, there was only one of us. We were supposed to have 30 minutes. There's no reason he couldn't have asked me those 3 additional questions. We had more than enough time. But the last question was, are you a constitutional sheriff? And what does it say? Would you, what's it say? I can't quite see it. I don't have my glasses on. Would Dan Wilson be a constitutional sheriff? Yes, absolutely. I will be a constitutional sheriff. I was recently endorsed by the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association founder, Sheriff Richard Mack, who really was responsible for getting that landmark decision when he sued the Clinton administration over the Brady bill, where Justice Scalia, in his majority ruling, reinforced the fact that these CLEOs, chief law enforcement officers, which the sheriff is that, does not have to enforce federal laws, mandates, etc. So as a constitutional sheriff, yeah, absolutely. My first fidelity outside of my relationship with Christ and my family, of course, is my country, my community, and my job is to protect everybody's rights as the founders intended, rights to life, liberty, and property. And I am not ashamed to say that over and over again, and I will protect people from an out of control, unaccountable federal and state government, and county for that matter.
You got a couple of people chiming in regarding the comments that you said, no, I don't apologize for, and explain why, and just said they agree, no apology necessary.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
You never have to apologize for being truthful.
I think that there are more people that understand that stance that you're taking probably than who do
And
not.
you know, I've talked about this a lot. Our country and the world is going downhill fast. And people should, and this is kind of an off sheriff topic, but it's part of my worldview and my question. With as many churches are on every corner in this country, especially up here in Kootenai County, especially in America, why, with so many churches, so many people going to these churches, is our communities not better?
Mhm.
I mean, it blows my mind. So I think the proof's in the pudding. Am I going to say that every church is bad? Absolutely not. And just for the record, I'm not saying church is bad, but there are a lot of false churches and a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing that are masquerading as angels of light when they're definitely not that. So,
We have Billy Painter, who's a familiar.
Billy,
to you.
hey brother.
He said, "Hey Dan, good to see you. Just wanted to tell you that a lot of people here in the Magic Valley are familiar with you. Lyle Johnston, who is a candidate for state legislature, says that you'll be the best for Kootenai County."
Awesome.
Why don't you tell everybody who Billy Painter is and how they can?
Billy's got a radio show, and it is the Bearded Patriots. I had the distinct pleasure of being on with him and John. Make certain I said that right, Billy. Podcast was great. These are some liberty-minded brothers who've had a whole lifetime of great experiences. Common man like me. They understand liberty. They understand the pursuit of the pursuit of freedom, and they're a voice that is desperately needed right here, right now. Billy is in the southern part of this great state, traveled all around the world, had quite a life experience. And then is it John? I'm really embarrassed, Billy. I don't remember this. Your partner. My sincere apologies.
John.
Okay, I was right, John. Okay. Anyway, John is from way up in the Northeast, and both great dudes. So
John Grosvenor.
John Grosvenor.
Thank you for giving me the pronunciation right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And by the way, we're going to link to their podcast so that you guys can check them out. Great dude. So thanks for saying hi, man.
Can you remind us on the ballot that's coming up for the primary? We have had people who've been confused. You had one guy say, "Do you even want to win?" I might have brought that up last week.
Yeah.
You're not on the ballot. Do you even want to win?
Yeah.
Why are you not on the ballot for the primary? And what do people need to do? You know, what can they do between now and when you do show up on the ballot?
Yeah. Great question. Thanks for reminding me about this. Because I am now an independent, there is no primary. I don't have a specific challenger right now in the Republican Party. It is Bob Norris against Captain John Mike Bauer, goes by Mike. Really, my vote is for Mike Bauer. Mike's a great dude, great patriot, has served his community very well, down to earth, a farmer at heart, rancher, great conversationalist. So if you have a choice, because you're voting in the Republican primary, I definitely would say vote for Bauer, hands down. So yeah, I go all the way to November. Now, Bob Norris doesn't like this. He thought he was going to get rid of me in the primary. And I think probably maybe some of those in the KCRCC were hoping that as well. But Bob, I'm not going away. And you had a great opportunity to sit on the same stage as me to show your superior law enforcement capabilities, even though you were only a lieutenant and never really held any true command staff level authority with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department prior to coming to Kootenai County. But you didn't come. And I think everybody knows that you're not going to ever sit on the same stage as Dan Wilson, because I don't think you really want to talk about hard things. And if Bruce can't be hand feeding you the cues and the information, and you don't take your meds so you don't cry, I understand it's a risk, but the folks of Kootenai County want to see this, and I can't wait, Bob. I'm going to ride you like a stick horse.
I think it makes sense to most people, no matter what side you're on, whose team you're on. It makes sense to most people that Bob Norris would choose not to enter into a debate, especially before the primary. Do you think as we roll closer to November, he's going to be able, what will the reasons be that he won't do it? And is he going to be able to pull that off? Is he going to be able to coast into November and just not
Well,
acknowledge
look,
care,
as
avoid
much as
debate?
he's breaking up right now emotionally, I mean, he was at an event, another town hall that they had down in Cataldo, Idaho, just a week ago. Numerous people called me up because during this town hall, he called a constituent who didn't agree with him on this absurd library crap that Bob's running around, turning into a full-length feature where he's already set the trailer and the movie, and he's getting ready for his sequel. For those of you who know, you know. And the reality of it is that he, according to numerous people that were there, and I'm not going to repeat it until I have the 100% verification via affidavit, he said a very, very crude thing and called somebody a criminal at this town hall, and there was a lot of people very unhappy. And we know that Bob can't handle pressure. He's frequently videoed having emotional outbursts. In fact, there are community leaders here who have told me their own experience with him, elected officials, and the temper tantrums that he has. Men that work in the sheriff's office with Bob have told me how tyrannical and upset he is. So he doesn't want to get on a stage with me because he won't know what to do.
Well, he's got a lot of mouthpieces, I call them, people who are his mouthpieces, that they repeat the same dialogue. They've all been given the same script and read from it. And one is that you don't answer questions, you avoid questions, you don't really have anything to say, you're bloviating, you have nothing to offer.
That, Catherine, bloviating is Bob Norris. If you want to talk about bloviating, listen to Bob redirect every question he's ever given. Look at the fact that Bob Norris won't go on the record about certain key issues. In fact, I would encourage everyone to go watch the videos of Bob for the past 2 years and look when he actually truly makes a stand versus skating right up to the edge. One of those ones would be Gun to Lane. Now, I'm curious if Bob Norris was truly, and will go for the record, despite his DHS buddies, if he'll actually say, yes, this was a very, very good thing, and I'm glad to have been a part of it. Versus, nah, I don't think people should have been going there, being led there by Brett Surplus, who was sending out all the Facebook messages, as I understand it, to rally the troops to stand up against the BLM Antifa group that were the B and C string, while DHS was most likely running around capturing pictures of all the good patriots that showed up with good heart to do the right thing, getting license plates, cell phone pings. So yeah, Bob, I think that, you can say that you're constitutional all day long. You can say that I'm never going to enforce a mask mandate. Big deal. You can talk about the gentleman who you didn't take his firearms out of his house, but I know what the real story is on that one. And it wasn't you that was Mr. Brave. So look, folks, be careful when you have politicians that use buzzwords like pro Second Amendment and anti-red flag laws and it goes on and on and on about the mask mandates. As Bob says, the best indicator of somebody's future performance is based upon their past performance. And Bob, you've made it oh so easy with your past performance, including the helicopter debacle, the Tams Burgers issues, the cross-deputization, the taking the cross-deputizations away from Spirit Lake PD and your attempt to take them over, your mismanagement of the Hayden contract that you've entered into recently, you're giving over law enforcement to tribal police officers who have requested to take over as primary law enforcement for both tribal and non-tribal members. So I'm having a lot of fun, and more is coming out all the time that we haven't even begun to talk about, and it's going to be probably a little more time as we're getting solid answers so that we can show the people the proof. In fact, we have aggregated, because Bob Norris is claiming that we're throwing around false news. Well, if you go to theidahosheriff.com, we have a page there that consolidates every single item where I've questioned Bob and his ethics, his morality, whether things are on the up and up. And you can go drill into each one of those topics and download information for yourself where you, the people of Kootenai County who are smart, hardworking people, can look at what I have provided for you and to tell me whether or not you agree or disagree with the assumptions or conclusions that I and many others have come up with.
Well, and here's a little secret. We just launched that page that curates all of those things. We just launched that not even 48 hours ago. Traffic to the website at theidahosheriff.com has exploded. So when we have people who are trying to plant bugs in our ears and get us disheartened to lose traction and I'm saying this to all of you who are tuning in, who are saying, look, go Dan, go America, go Kootenai County. That the views on that page just like shot up in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So those are going to be items that you too are going to want to go see, because that educates you as you're talking with your friends and neighbors to when they say, well, what is it about Dan Wilson? Why does he get your vote? If you're unable to explain that, that's a lot of times people are going to go for, I'm just going to stick with what's there. I don't see the problem.
Yeah.
So that well worth your time to check out that document. You got the Kootenai County GOP parody account. You got their attention.
What'd they say?
You got their attention. I'm going to ride you like a stick horse. They want a sticker. They want a sticker.
What kind of a sticker?
I'm going to ride you like a stick horse.
I'm gonna ride you like a stick horse. You never been to Texas? You've never heard that? That's actually in memory of one of my dear friends who unexpectedly passed away last year from Waco, Texas. And that was Mr. Brian Edwards. So God rest his soul. That was one of his favorite sayings. But yes, I'm still going to, every chance I get, metaphorically speaking, ride Bruce and Bob like a stick horse.
A quick question, then I got another comment that I want to get to on Instagram, is back to the primary ballot, because I think this is legit. People got so much going on in their lives that may seem simple. Is on this ballot for the primary, your name's not on it.
Will not appear.
We explained all of that.
Yeah.
But is there a blank to write your name in?
I don't know that there is, but if there by chance is a blank, go ahead, fill me in. But but at the same time, look, I would much rather for the people of Kootenai County to choose, if you have to choose something right now, since I'm going all the way to November, if you get a chance to choose between Norris and Mike Bauer, I mean, by all means, vote for Mike Bauer. Mike lived and died at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department back when ethics mattered, when the scandals were breaking, and he was there to witness it and say, I'm not going to have any part of this anymore. If you want to talk about a man with a wealth of knowledge and knows more things than that he has forgotten than I will ever know, I would highly recommend that you vote for Mike Bauer. And you know what? If he's my competitor in the general election, it's a great thing. He's a very worthy opponent, and I just have nothing but the greatest respect for him. So I did not know Mike Bauer prior to running. In fact, I was running for at least 2 months, I believe, before Mike and I were acquainted. But look, people of Kootenai County, hard times are upon us, and we can see daily the discouraging, heinous things that are happening in our capital. The money that's being spent overseas while we can't secure our southern border. They're allowing these individuals now from the Taliban into the country with weapons that they don't know where they currently are or are not. They're coming all over this country. We're seeing the protests. We're seeing everything geared up for another summer of rage. And your federal government is not the answer. And really, the state government, I don't have a lot of hope for. I heard some things this past weekend at a town hall that the state legislators are working on, and we hope that they can get some of these things passed to secure us more here. But folks, I don't have a lot of hope in that either, which brings us to our local community. Now, in order for us to maintain some civility and the rule of law, we must be united. We must hold this house together. And it's just like in a household where you have people with different worldviews. It's very difficult, but you all must work together in order to maintain that family. You don't have to believe 100% with those that you are working with if your overall goal is to secure life, liberty, and property. So join with me in this cause for liberty without compromise. Join me for this tough cause that was passed on to us by the framers of this country. And it actually started all the way back with the Mayflower Compact. But remember, as I always say, we didn't descend from fearful men. We descended from men who were brave. They were thinkers. They were hard workers. They were warriors. They were volunteer soldiers. And they pledged their lives, their fortunes, because of the sacred honor that we now inherited, and we must pick up that torch and carry it and secure Cooney County for this generation and the generations to come. Stay of good courage. Do the right thing. May God bless you all. Go to theidahosheriff.com, download all the documents we provided. Go to us on all the social media platforms, X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. If you can, send us a donation. We have yard signs. We're getting some of those out to you this very next week. We have yard signs. If you want them, go to the website. Tell us you want one. God bless. Have a good night.